we find something of size, and Curtis will know that by looking at the magnetometer spike in the sine wave,
Yeah.
but it's not going to draw you a picture
enough to
unless
know,
it would be laying perfect like an anchor,
Yeah.
if it's buried in the sediment.
The ship was drifting this way, and they dropped their hook, you know, like as they were drifting to stop their drift up Bellingham Channel. This portion right in here is what we're thinking.
Okay.
As the most probable area.
About 35 years ago, I became aware that Vancouver expedition had come through here and started studying it and realized that they had lost an anchor here. And I thought that was a really significant event. And thinking, wow, that anchor is still here. You know, 200 years ago they lost an anchor and it's still here. And I thought to myself, you know, I'll bet in my lifetime somebody will actually find that anchor and raise it. And I will hope in my lifetime I'll be able to see that anchor.
At first, we should probably look at this area south of the line, southeast of the line a little bit more than, you know, try to go back. And then if we do a couple of runs like this, then I suppose we could try to cross hatch it maybe that way at a 90 degrees to those runs.
I don't think we're going to be able to do that with the current. I mean, that's a high probability area, I think, still.
I'm just thinking of for currents, we probably should be making our tracks go this way.
It'll be flooding, it'll be flooding all morning.
We want to get this magnetometer as close to the bottom as we can, and we got to make sure we don't. It looks like it could be pretty rugged, right?
Well, that's why they lost the anchors.
Exactly.
We don't want to lose the magnetometer
exactly,
the same way.
So,
The first expedition that actually came through here was in 1790, and it was the Eliza expedition. It generated, of course, a great deal of excitement in the world, and the next year the Vancouver expedition arrived in 1791 to carry out a complete survey of the entire Pacific Northwest all the way to Alaska. Vancouver's flagship was the HMS Discovery, and the tender for it was called the Chatham. They spent the night anchored at the southeast corner of Lopez Island, and then got underway the next morning, and their destination was just to move from Lopez just across Rosario Strait and anchor in Strawberry Bay on the west side of Cypress Island right here. There was very light winds, and they started making their way across Rosario Strait and coming up here towards Cypress Island. But then the tide changed and started flooding and carrying them a little faster than they expected. So the Discovery was able to make it around the west side of Cypress Island and get to its anchorage in Strawberry Bay. But the Chatham got caught by the current and was carried this way up through into the beginning of Bellingham Channel here. And they became concerned that they were going to miss their anchorage. They reported about a 5-knot current, so it was really carrying them along at a pretty good rate. So they decided they better drop their anchor and stop and wait for the tide. So they dropped their stream anchor, which was a smaller anchor that they just used often for anchoring for the day or waiting out a tide. But as soon as it went down and they fetched up on the hawser, the line parted.
Well, each one of these lines represents a track that we're taking. The one that's in pink is the active line. So at this point, basically, I'm looking forward and I'm ranging the land in the background to determine if we're actually turning left or right. This is kind of telling us what we just did a few seconds ago. The blue is our boat up here. The arrow of it coming off is our heading. Behind the blue boat, this is what we're towing, and that's the magnetometer there. It's basically like mowing the lawn. You're just going back and forth on each one of these lines, trying to cover all the area.
We plot it all up, and then you'll actually see the dipoles spurring off from the the anchor parts, and it'll actually almost look like an anchor, or you'll be able to visualize it once it's all contoured and everything.
So does that mean that all this data would have to be run through a program to sort of get that readout that will allow you to see that stuff?
Yeah. What mark are we on now? 4. So the last one was 3, so 3 was actually a pretty good one. So what we're looking for in this magnetometer search is a magnetic anomaly in this in the overall ambient magnetic field, and what that's going to look like is a spike and then a dip, and then it's going to return to baseline levels. Hey Brian, Mark 1. So normally we see this kind of noisy data, but you can see the general trend, so we don't think of these as anomalies. They're just noise in the data, as long as you can follow that. Once the data comes to the bottom of the screen, it jumps up here. It's just a scaling issue, but you can see this comes down, spikes way up here, which is up here, and then back down. So we think that could be an anomaly.